Hello everyone, welcome you all to Shri Jayendra Rank Zone classes. I am your mentor and your friend for the subject biology, and I will be taking the zoology part, that is animal science. My dear students, today we are going to start with human respiratory system. As in the first lecture, I have told you the introduction about breathing and respiration, differences about breathing and respiration. Now we are going to start with the human respiratory system. The first point we have to consider that what are the different specialities of mammalian respiratory system, that is human respiratory system. The spatial main features of human respiratory system are: first, presence of nose; second, elongation of nasal passage and its complete separation from buccal passage through palate. Very important. Presence of nose, second, elongation of nasal passage and its complete separation from buccal passage through palate. Internal nostrils open deep into nasopharyngeal part of pharynx. The internal nostrils, they can open deep into nasopharyngeal part of pharynx because palate is separating the nasal passage from the buccal passage. Okay, is that understood? Long windpipe, long windpipe due to the presence of well-defined neck. There is a presence of long windpipe because of well-defined neck and spongy and solid lungs. These are the four special mammalian features of respiratory system. First is presence of nose, second elongation of nasal passage and its complete separation from buccal passage from palate so that internal nostrils can open deep into nasopharyngeal part of pharynx. Long windpipe due to the presence of well-defined neck and spongy and solid lungs. Now, coming to next, the human respiratory system. The human respiratory system includes the respiratory tract. The respiratory tract is the passage by which air enters into lungs, and it is basically divided into two parts. First is the upper respiratory tract and second is the lower respiratory tract. The human respiratory system is divided into upper respiratory tract and the lower respiratory tract. Upper respiratory tract includes nostrils, external and internal nostrils. It includes nasal passage, internal nostrils and pharynx. So till pharynx, starting from the external nostrils is the upper respiratory tract. This is the nostril region. You can see nostrils. The air rushes in through the nostrils. It goes into the nasal cavity. This is the nasal cavity. The air goes into the nasal cavity and then comes out through the pharynx. This is the pharyngeal part. Okay. So this part is known as what? Nasopharynx. The nasal passage and the oral passage is separated by hard palate. This is hard palate. Okay. The lower respiratory system includes larynx, trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles. The upper respiratory tract includes external nostrils, nasal passage, internal nostrils, and pharynx. The lower respiratory tract includes larynx, trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles. So this is the respiratory tract. Now we will study about the upper respiratory tract and the lower respiratory tract. The conduction zone of air it basically includes external nostrils, one pair, it includes nasal chamber, Nasopharynx. Nasal chamber and nasopharynx are interconnected by internal nostrils. This is the conduction zone of upper respiratory tract. Okay. The pharynx is the common passage for both food and air. The air comes down through pharynx and it enters into glottis. Glottis is during swallowing covered by epiglottis. Okay. It is a thin elastic cartilaginous flap and it prevents the entry of food into larynx. Okay. This is the lower respiratory tract, which mainly starts from larynx. Okay. Till the terminal bronchioles or the alveolar sac. The lower respiratory system includes larynx, trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles. Okay. So the conduction zone includes larynx. From larynx, the air moves into trachea. From trachea, it moves into bronchi, primary bronchi, then secondary bronchi, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi or bronchioles. So this is the conduction zone of lower respiratory tract. Okay. Epiglottis Epiglottis is a thin elastic cartilaginous flap okay, which prevents the entry of food into windpipe or into larynx. Is this clear? Now, very important, at the level of T5 thoracic vertebrae, T5 thoracic vertebrae, which is the mid thoracic region, primary bronchus or the segregation of trachea into bronchus is seen. So at the level of T5, primary bronchi, then the secondary, then the tertiary, and then bronchioles. Then the secondary, tertiary, okay, and then comes the bronchioles. Now, we will discuss about the nose and the nasal passage. Okay, terminal bronchioles. Before discussing about the nasal passage, terminal bronchioles they opens into respiratory bronchioles. Then it moves to alveolar duct, then atria, then alveolar sac, then alveoli. Okay, so Yeah. Nose and nasal passage. External layers of nostrils, one pair. They are a pair of slit-like opening present on the lower end of the nose. Lower end of the nose. Then external nostrils or the nasal passage, they are the slit-like opening present on the lower end of the nose. Internal layers are concave. Internal layers are concave. These are two nasal chambers open into nasopharynx through internal layers or concha. So external layers of nostrils, they are slit-like openings present on the lower end of the nose. They are one pair. External internal layers concave, they are also paired. Two nasal chambers open into the nasopharynx through internal layers or concave. Okay. The nasal cavity, it basically includes what? It is lined by inferior nasal concha, middle nasal concha, and superior nasal concha. Okay. These nasal concave, middle nasal concave, and inferior nasal concave, they are the part of internal layers. Okay. Which is guarded by at the superior most portion by frontal sinus. At the inferior region, it is guarded by palate. Okay. This is the vestibular region, which helps in the flow of air. This is the hard palate, oral cavity. The olfactory bulb which helps in the olfaction. Okay, this is the olfactory region. These are the sphenoid sinus. This is the frontal sinus, sphenoid sinus. Okay, nasopharynx. This is eustachian tube which connects the middle ear to the pharynx. Middle ear to pharynx helps to maintain the air pressure. Okay, a respiratory region. This is the respiratory region, and this is the soft palate. Okay, this part is the soft palate. Okay, these frontal sinus, sphenoid sinus, all are paranasal sinuses. Frontal sinus, sphenoid sinus, these all are paranasal sinuses. Okay, now nasal cavity. It occurs between palate and cranium. Nasal cavity is divisible into two nasal chambers by the nasal septum. Each nasal chamber has three parts. First point is that it occurs between palate and cranium. Nasal cavity is divisible into two nasal chambers by the nasal septum. Each nasal chamber has three parts. Vestibule, it is the lower smaller part just above the external layers, which is lined by the skin and bears hair as well as oil glands. Hair help in filtering out dust particles from incoming air. Vestibule, it is the lower smaller part just above the external layers, which is lined by skin and bears hair as well as oil glands. Hair help in filtering out dust particles from incoming air. Conditioner. Conditioner is the respiratory region. It is the middle part of the nasal chamber. There are three bony projections called nasal conchae or terminates. These terminates or nasal conchae, superior, middle, and inferior, and some sinuses. These are paranasal sinuses, maxillary, frontal, sphenoid, and ethmoid. Okay. The conditioner is the respiratory region. It is the middle part of the nasal chamber. There are three bony projections called nasal conchae or terminates, superior, middle, and inferior, and some sinuses, maxillary, frontal, sphenoid, and ethmoid. The conditional part is reddish pink in color because of the presence of highly vasculatured and thin pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium with mucus and serous glands. The conditional part is reddish pink because of the presence of highly vasculared and thin pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium with mucous glands and serous glands. The inhaled air is moistened, warmed, and cleaned because of this epithelium and the hairs which were present on the vestibular region. Okay. Then comes the olfactory region. So basically, you can see the nasal cavity is divided into three parts. The nasal chamber is divided into three parts. One is the vestibular, second is the respiratory, and third is the olfactory region. The upper part of the nasal chamber and the superior nasal conchae are yellowish brown. The upper part of the nasal chamber and superior nasal conchae are yellowish brown. They are covered by olfactory epithelium, which perceives sensation of smell. The olfactory region is the upper part of the nasal chamber and superior nasal conchae, which is yellowish brown. They are covered by olfactory epithelium, which perceives sensation of smell. Now comes the buccopharyngeal cavity. Buccopharyngeal cavity, it is basically a passage for both buccal and nasal. This cavity is common to both buccal and nasal. Nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx are the three parts. Okay. So buccopharyngeal cavity is basically nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Nasopharynx occurs at the base of the skull and has lining of ciliated stratified squamous epithelium. Nasopharynx leads to oropharynx or common pathway of respiratory and digestive system. Nasopharynx occurs at the base of skull and has the lining of ciliated stratified squamous epithelium. Nasopharynx leads to oropharynx or a common pathway of respiratory and digestive system. Oropharynx passes into laryngopharynx, which contains epiglottis and passes into larynx. Okay. Larynx. Larynx is also known as voice box. Okay, as it helps in sound production. Production of sound. Okay. Now, larynx is basically having cartilages in which three are paired and three are unpaired. So, the larynx is also known as the voice box, which helps in the sound production, which is having mainly the cartilages in which three cartilages are paired and three cartilages are unpaired. These laryngeal cartilages, the thyroid, cricoid, and epiglottis. Unpaired cartilages, thyroid, cricoid, and epiglottis. They are unpaired. Paired cartilage, arachnoid, cuneiform, also known as Winsberg, and corniculate. Santorini. So, the voice box of the larynx is the expanded portion which is having these six cartilages, six pair of cartilages, in which three are paired and three are unpaired. So, three are paired are arachnoid, cuneiform, and corniculate, and unpaired are thyroid, cricoid, and epiglottis. Larynx is the expanded region of the respiratory tract between the pharynx and the trachea. It is between the pharynx and the trachea. Okay. It is having the walls made up of hyaline cartilage and various skeletal muscles. Larynx is expanded region of the respiratory tract between the pharynx and the trachea. It is having walls made up of hyaline cartilage and various skeletal muscles. It is attached to the hyoid bone. You can see in the picture This is the hyoid bone, body of the hyoid bone, which helps in the lifting of the mandible as well. Neck muscles. Okay. This is the epiglottis. You can see epiglottis. Okay. Thyroid cartilage. Okay. Arachnoid cartilage. Paired. Cricoid cartilage. This is cricoid cartilage. Corniculate cartilage. Okay. It is connected with the pharynx by an opening glottis, which is protected by a lid-like covering known as epiglottis. Elastic flap. It contains elastic vocal cords which are enveloped in the folds of mucous membrane and are the source of the vocal tone in speech, nicknamed voice box. The larynx is the expanded region of the respiratory tract between the pharynx and the trachea, having walls of hyaline cartilage and various skeletal muscles. It is attached to the hyoid bone. It is connected with the pharynx by an opening called glottis, which is protected by a lid-like covering known as epiglottis, which is an elastic flap. It contains the elastic vocal cords, which are enveloped in the folds of mucous membrane and are the source of vocal tone in speech, nicknamed voice box. Thyroid cartilage. Thyroid cartilage is the largest cartilage. It is a hyaline cartilage. It is covered with a non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium in the framework of human larynx. Thyroid cartilage, it is the largest cartilage and made up of hyaline cartilage. It is covered with a non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium in the framework of human larynx. It is attached to the hyoid bone. It is attached to the hyoid bone. It is a shield-shaped and has two broad processes which join anteriorly to form protuberance on the front of the neck known as Adam's apple. It is the sign of puberty in males, which is more prominent in males and is articulated below to the ring-like cricoid cartilage. Okay, so the thyroid cartilage, it is shield-shaped and has two broad processes which join anteriorly to form protuberance on the front of the neck known as Adam's apple, which is more prominent in males and it is a sign of the puberty in males. It is articulated below to the ring-like cricoid cartilage. Okay, so you can see here, this is the thyroid cartilage. It is like a shield. The protuberances are known as what? Adam's apple. This protuberance, laryngeal prominence. This pro, you can see the Adam's apple. Okay, now it articulates on the cricoid cartilage. This is cricoid cartilage, this is the articulation. Okay, cricoid cartilage. Epiglottis, it is the thin elastic cartilaginous lid-like structure. It is an elastic cartilage located at the roof located at the root of the tongue, which folds posteriorly over to close the glottis to prevent food and liquid from entering into the larynx and trachea, while food or drink is passing through the pharynx during the act of swallowing or in the preparation of cough or sneeze. The thin elastic cartilaginous lid-like structure, which is the elastic cartilage located at the root of the tongue, which folds posteriorly close over to close the glottis to prevent food and liquid from entering into the larynx and trachea, while food or drink is passing through the pharynx during the act of swallowing or in the preparation of cough or sneeze. Its movement is controlled by autonomic nervous system. Its movement is controlled by autonomic nervous system. Okay. Glottis. Glottis, it is the opening between the vocal cords and at the upper part of the larynx and at the vocal apparatus of the larynx. It is protected by epiglottis. It is protected by epiglottis, which folds posteriorly over to close it to prevent food and liquid from entering into the larynx. So glottis, the opening between the vocal cords at the upper part of the larynx and the vocal apparatus of the larynx. It is protected by the epiglottis, which folds posteriorly over to close it to prevent food and the liquid from entering into the larynx and trachea while food or drink is passing through the pharynx during the act of swallowing. So this is glottis. Cricoid cartilage. The second largest and lowermost cartilage is cricoid cartilage. The second largest and lowermost cartilage is cricoid cartilage. It is also a hyaline cartilage. In the framework of human larynx, it is narrow in front and high behind. It is narrow in front and high behind. Whereas being positioned within the thyroid cartilage. It is surrounded by two arytenoid cartilages from which the vocal cord pass forward to be attached together to form front of the thyroid cartilage. Adjacent to the cricoid and first tracheal ring is the cricothyroid membrane, a site used for rapid emergency airway access, cricothyroidotomy. In case of trauma, accident, cricothyroidotomy is used for rapid emergency airway access. It is also known as tracheostomy. The second largest and the lowermost cartilage is hyaline cartilage in the frame of human larynx. It is narrow in front and high behind. Where being positioned with the thyroid cartilage, it is surrounded by the two arachnoid cartilages from which the vocal cord pass forward to be attached together to the front of the thyroid cartilage. Note, adjacent to the cricoid cartilage and the first tracheal ring is the cricothyroid membrane, a site used for rapid emergency airway access. Arytenoid cartilages, a pair of small pyramidal cartilages. These are small pyramidal cartilages, hyaline cartilage, which articulate with the cricoid cartilage. The vocal cords and several skeletal muscles are attached to them. Their movement produces tension or relaxation of the vocal cords, resulting in a variety of sound pitches. Arachnoid cartilage, the pair of small pyramidal cartilages, hyaline cartilages, which articulate with the cricoid cartilage and several skeletal muscles and are attached to them. Their movement produces tension or relaxation of the vocal cords, resulting in a variety of sound pitches. Corniculate cartilage, the pair of small conical nodules of elastic cartilage which surmount the apex of each arachnoid cartilage. The corniculate and the epiglottis, they are elastic cartilages. A pair of small conical nodules which surmount the apex of each arachnoid cartilage. Cuneiform cartilage, a pair of small non-articulating rods of elastic cartilage. It is also elastic cartilage, and it is a pair of non-articulating rods of elastic cartilage which lie in the internal mucosal wall of the larynx, which basically lie in the internal mucosal wall of the larynx, somewhat superior to the corniculate cartilages. So the cartilages are like thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, arachnoid cartilage, corniculate cartilage, and cuneiform cartilage along with epiglottis. Okay. So unpaired cartilages are thyroid, cricoid, and epiglottis, while all are paired. You can see in the picture here. This is the epiglottis, thyroid membrane between thyroid and hyoid bone, cuneiform cartilage, corniculate cartilage, arachnoid muscle, cricoid cartilage, tracheal cartilages. Body of the hyoid bone, thyroid membrane, vascular fold, false vocal cord, vestibular fold, false vocal cord, thyroid cartilage, vocal fold, the vocal cord. Mean anteriorly it is prevented by the vestibular folds or the false vocal cord, and posteriorly it is having the true vocal cord. Cricothyroid ligament, and cricotracheal ligament. Vestibular and vocal folds. Vestibular folds, there are pair of ridges of mucous membrane stretching across the laryngeal cavity from the angle of the thyroid cartilage to the atic, arytenoid cartilage. It encloses a space called false glottis. They serve to protect the vocal folds beneath them from aspirated materials. They contribute to the closure of the glottis during swallowing or in the preparation of the cough or sneeze, nicknamed false vocal cord. Vocal folds, the sharp edges of the pair of ridges of the mucous membrane overlying the vocal ligament and stretching along the laryngeal wall from the angle between the lamina of the thyroid cartilage to the vocal process of the arytenoid cartilage. The movement of skeletal muscle attached to the arytenoid cartilage produces a tension or relaxation of these tissue edges, which then vibrate in a stream of expired air, resulting in a variety of sound pitches. Their movement is controlled by somatic nervous system, especially the speech centers, nicknamed true vocal cords. So true vocal cords or the speech centers, they are controlled by the somatic nervous system. Vocal folds and vestibular folds. Vocal folds are the true vocal cords and vestibular folds are the false vocal cords. Okay. So this is about the larynx and the cartilages. We will be talking about the different parts of human respiratory system later on in the coming videos. Please watch my previous videos to have a better connect. Take care, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye.